Welcome to another edition of Success Talk. This is Dr. Herbert Harris, and the purpose of the Success Talk is to let you know what people are doing to create success in their lives, some of the challenges they have, how they overcome those challenges, and how they make their breakthroughs. So today we have a young lady who is a college student, but most of all, a person who is really involved in reading and book reviews and I'll say the literary pursuits. And so Ginger Callwood. Thank you, Ginger. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wow. I'm just impressed. So many young people now are not into books. And how do you find that? I mean, do you find that among your peers that you one of the few who's really into books and reading?
Yeah, actually, I am. I get a lot of jokes from friends. They're like, "Oh, well, that's an old person's hobby." Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I definitely do find that at least in my friend group and stuff like that, I'm really the only one who's really passionate about reading.
Now, how did you develop your passion for reading? Did your mom or your dad, were they readers?
Yes, my dad is an avid reader. He always had a book in his hand. And so growing up, he would always take me to the bookstore. I would always watch him read. He has like a huge collection, and it sort of just grew on me.
That's so important. My daughter's like that also. Her mom was a reader. Her mother was like a born reader. I mean, I
Right.
think I think when the doctor spanked her, he had to tell her to put a book down. So, Ginger, tell us a little about your background. Where you're from and how'd you get where you are now?
Yeah, so I'm a college student. I'm from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. My family is originally from the Caribbean, the St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. And I'm also a twin. I have a twin sister. She's two
Wow.
minutes older than me. So, and I'm about to graduate this year.
Okay. Now, does she go to school with you?
No, she does not.
Okay. Because I have a couple of twin friends that they've like gone through high school and college together. I don't know if
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah, it's really different because my sister and I have different interests. She's a tennis player and she plays college tennis, and I was not really into the athletics. So we are very different.
Okay. Yeah. So now what is your major? Mhm.
Journalism.
Okay. All right. Now that's what my daughter's mother, that was her major.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And she is Caribbean. She is from Guyana.
Oh, okay.
Her parents, her
Yeah.
mom is from Guyana. Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes. I have some good St. Thomas stories I have to tell you at another time. Well, one of my good friends there was very much involved with the politics and
Right.
government, and so it was it was always like a good place for me.
Right. Right.
Now, as a college student majoring in journalism, what made you decide on journalism?
Yeah, I've always really loved storytelling. I'm really passionate about both reading and writing, and also keeping up with current events and staying informed. So naturally, just being a really curious person, was interested in journalism and pursuing that field.
Mm. Have you ever worked for a newspaper?
I've done a few internships, writing and stuff like that. I work as a contributor to an online publication that it mostly posts celebrity news and stuff like that. So I do have some experience writing, and so far I've really enjoyed it.
Mm. Well, you just mentioned something that I think a lot of our young people overlook, the power of the internship. Now,
Right.
how has that helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at least in college, internships really help to get you valuable experience. Also, being involved in student media, there's a bunch of stuff on campus that you can do as well. Like, you can't work over the summer, but just like getting the real life experience and in the workforce and interacting with people is really beneficial.
Wow, beautiful. Now, what do you see as your long term? What's your game plan, your long-term plan?
Yeah, so my dream job is to be a lawyer one day and sort of work in the public sector. So that's really long term, but I also see myself like writing on the side and still keeping journalism in my career path. So I guess we'll see what's in store for me.
Well, law, I'll tell you something, Ginger. Law is a great jumping off area. I practiced
Mhm.
law for about 25 years,
Wow.
and law is, you have, it's almost one of those areas that if you have that under your belt, you can do anything.
Right.
You know, many of the CEOs, many of the leaders of organizations started out
Mhm.
as lawyers, even though many of them never practiced. I
Mhm.
think it gives you a good sense of the big picture things.
Right.
Mhm. Now, have you written your book? Are you working on your book?
No, I think that's very far off for me, but maybe one day if I have a story to share.
Well, your journey is already a story. Think about that. A young person who is in the education arena,
Mhm.
who is really embracing, you might say, old time values.
Yeah.
So
I'm a
that,
huge fan of memoirs, so
okay. So in your young life, number one, I guess being a journalist right now, we're in the middle of this political season. How, from a college student perspective, how do you all see this whole political landscape?
yeah, I think a lot of young people get really discouraged by certain aspects in politics. And at least for me, being involved in journalism, I just recognize the importance of voting, especially now more than ever. A lot of people were like, oh, well, my vote won't count, or
Mm.
there's nothing I can do about it. So I might as well just not even try. But, voting, getting involved, whether it's volunteering, working with local organizations, just doing whatever you can to stay politically active and using your voice is incredibly important.
Now, do you find on the campus, is there like an awareness of the political process, or is it mainly just it's something happening outside of them?
Well, you know what? I think being in Washington, D.C.
Mm,
really, really helps because I think people are always doing some kind of outreach. They're always working with organizations, doing stuff outside of campus, fundraising, just raising awareness. But I will say, like speaking to my friends in different places, that maybe the awareness is lacking a little bit. But
mm.
being in the nation's capital, it's kind of like right in your face.
Yeah, yeah. It's like this is this is where it's all going down.
Right.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. So now you've evolved. Now let me just tell you, you have a great presence on camera,
Oh,
and
thank you.
yes, I see you moving into, you might say, video, television, or online journalism, and you have a great speaking, a cadence and presence. So I will not be surprised that I turn on CNN and there you are. This is Ginger Callwood from Miami, reporting on the last moon landing and who arrived here and what they want.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, can't you see that?
Oh, I hope so. I'm really flattered.
Yeah. So now, Ginger, when you as a young person, say coming in, you're just about to finish college. What have been some of your challenges? You know, that's
Most
been holding you back or slowing you down.
Yeah, absolutely. So most definitely self-doubt.
Mm,
I think people have the tendency to look down on themselves or just not feel confident. And when you are doubting yourself, you just limit your imagination. And I know that has happened to me in the past where I really have to overcome these certain fears or thinking that I'm not capable of achieving something.
wow. So how do you overcome that?
Just surrounding myself and by positive space, whether that's friends or family, whatever it may be. Having people in your life who are constantly reinforcing you and giving you the reassurance that you need to succeed is really important, because it's hard to do it everything by yourself. You're going to
Mm.
need that support.
So among college students, it it well, it's obviously very important who you associate with.
Right.
Mm. Hmm. And so many times we see the negative side where people associate with a group that's not going in a positive direction and they suffer the consequences.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point, because college, you're sort of, attempting to find yourself, and it's really easy to get, wrapped up in the wrong crowd. So staying on path and with people who are also trying to achieve what you're looking to accomplish is definitely a good idea.
Well, I tell you, you are real a tribute to your parents. I mean, really and truly, it's very rare, and it's unfortunate. It's very rare that you meet a lot of very confident, young people who have great communication skills. So many of our young people have, no, well, I won't say so many. I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but
Mhm.
many times we've gotten so much into the, um, you ask a person a question and they get say, well, you know what I'm saying. I had a friend that used to, he was a lawyer, and when he'd be talking to a potential client, they can say, well, you know what I'm saying. He said, no, I don't. What are you saying? And it would stump the person like, you know what I'm saying. Say, I don't know. Tell me what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so this inability to communicate, what was it about your early childhood that I think, you didn't just develop this overnight? What would it you say about your early childhood and your early education years that helped you get to this point?
Yeah, I think I'm lucky to have had a good education and parents who are just really supportive and always encouraging me, and people that I can look up to as mentors. My mom was definitely, a stickler growing up for manners.
Mm,
Anytime I'm not doing something right, she's very quick to let me know, and I think
mhm.
that's very helpful, especially around adults and stuff like that. So I kind of grew up with that mindset. And it's really helped me just in the long run, interacting with people, networking, that kind of thing. So I'm very appreciative for my childhood.
Wow. Now, what did your mom do? She sounds like she was a teacher.
Actually, she was a teacher for a very long time.
Mhm.
She taught like very, very young kids, and she also worked in hospital administration as well. But she's a very, very caring woman.
Yes. Well, see, my mom was a teacher, and you can tell I was like surrounded my mother and my aunt, my mother and aunt, my aunt never married, and so they always lived together. And so, boy, it was tough sometimes though, because my mother was, she was a music teacher and
Uh-huh.
she taught piano. And after about a year, she decided that she was going to send me to her competition. She just
Oh.
She said, Herbert, you just don't get it. And I guess she had high expectations for me. And I just did not seem to have any talent. Once she said, she said, I'm glad there are only 88 keys on the keyboard because sooner or later you'll find the right ones. I'm like, oh my, yeah. See, that was a trip. Yep. But once again, that caring, nurturing, guiding environment was very helpful. I think in the long term, it served me, and I can see that it served you very well.
Thank you.
Now, as you go forward, you surround yourself with caring people. When you look at what you've accomplished to date, what would you say is your greatest victory? The thing that you, and it may be one or two. Like sometimes I ask that question, and someone say, "Well, I have two or three." I'm like, "Okay, well, what are your greatest victories?"
Yeah, so far I would just say, getting through college and making sure that I was, focusing and studying and keeping my grades up. because I think nowadays, although a lot of people go to college, a lot of people also don't finish. So I think, college students, we need to give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back for actually seeing this experience through and getting through the really tough parts.
Mm, wow. Okay. Well, that's a great victory. And are you going to go on to graduate school?
I'm hoping so in the future. Yes.
Okay. Well, I tell you, just I'll give you a word of advice, and that is to, if you can, keep going.
Mhm.
You know, use the graduate internships and
Right.
things like that to keep going, because it's something about once you get out of school, man, it's hard to get back. And many times I'll talk with people who were in school, and when they made that, it was only going to be a year off, and then life happens, and then it becomes 5 years, and then here at 45, they're like, I'm going to go back to finish my degree. Not that it's never too late, but if you have that option, just hang in there, keep rolling.
Yeah, my dad actually said the exact same thing to me the other
Mhm.
day, word
Yeah.
for word.
Yes. Yes. Well, it's one of those things that when you can see the end game, and you see a promising young person, and even as a parent, I'm like, I know how it's going to end up. Do what I tell you. Just trust
Yeah.
me. So it seems that though you're very obedient, and yeah, that's good. You tell your dad. I said, tell him, give him a high five for me.
I will.
Now, we met. You did a review of our book, The 12 Universal Laws of Success, and I tell you, I thought you were a very mature, one of the top reviewers. I mean, you are, but I had no idea that you were a college student with the level of writing that you were demonstrating in that review. So tell us a little about the book, and how it came into your attention, and your approach to reviewing it.
Yes. So I was so happy to read the book. Honestly, I think no matter where you are in life, that the book will serve you a purpose. And I really appreciate books that can reach a variety of people. And so I'm also really big on quotes. So I was literally highlighting like every single word in the book because there are just so many great quotes. I wrote down a few of my
Uh-huh.
favorite
Yes,
as well that I would actually really like to share on
I'd
here.
love that. Go right ahead.
Okay, so one of them was you attract thoughts, people, and experiences which are congruent with how you feel about yourself. And that really stuck out to me just as, a young person being in college, who you surround yourself with really does have an impact on your future. So I thought that quote was really, really important.
Wow. Yes. Yes. I thank you. I love the way you read it. I mean, you read it with such authority. I'm like, I agree. I agree.
That was really, really insightful. So I
Uh-huh.
appreciate that as well as one more that just one more
Yes.
that I
No, go
actually.
right ahead. I'm loving it. I,
Okay.
I, I love that. Yes.
This one was about overcoming obstacles and fear. The fear of criticism robs you of your initiative and destroys your imagination. I think it's like short, sweet, and simple, but very, very insightful because I think a lot of times people are just too scared to pursue their dreams. They're afraid of failure and all of these other obstacles. So they just give up before they've
Mhm.
even started. So I think that quote is really a testament to just persisting.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so glad you got it, because so many times people don't see that.
Right.
And, and so when they can see it, and that was one of the goals when we were writing the book, to try to make it so that each idea was like a little nugget. You didn't have to read all over the place to get a nugget. It's like going into the gold mine, and when you see a nugget, just pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Were there any others?
Let's see. They're all on like my Kindle, so
Uh-huh. Yes.
I have to go through. But there was like a garden analogy that I
Yes.
really, really liked. I had to go
Mhm.
back and find it.
Oh
But
yeah.
just
Yes.
yeah, similar to how someone grows. They work
Yeah.
at it every day, like watering your plants, growing and slowly making
Yeah.
progress and
Yeah.
just keeping with it essentially.
And
So
pulling up the weeds.
yes, yes, exactly. I
Yeah.
really, really liked that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I thought
Wow.
that was really important.
Now, for a young person, like now, that book was actually written. I was teaching college
Okay.
and I was teaching. I'll give you a little story.
Mhm.
So many times ideas come to you, and ideas are like gifts from God. I was in my meditation one morning and my meditation said, you should teach. And I'm like, yeah, I think I would like to teach. The very morning I finished my meditation, I was living in New York. I was up on Hamilton Terrace near City College. And I go out jogging. Every morning I jog. I run into Dr. Mattie Cook, who was the president of Malcolm King College. So Malcolm King College was in the same building, the Teresa Towers, where my law office was. So I ran up. I said, hey, Dr. Cook, how you doing? I said, I was thinking today and I'd like to teach a course in college. She said, great, Doc. She says, Attorney Harris, what's the name of the course? Like, oh, okay. So out of the blue, this term came, achievement motivation. She said, I like it. She says, can you come to the office today? Today? Yeah, of course. Once you start operating on your vision, your dream, the universe starts bringing stuff to you. And all you have to do is be ready, number one, and then two, to let the words flow. And so I
Right.
could have said, well, I don't know yet. But, in the Bible, when it talks about open your mouth, and when God says, I'll put the words in your mouth. So many times when someone asks you this, if you there's a question I often use. I say, if you person said, well, I don't know the answer. I don't know how to do this. So I said, well, if you did know how to do it, what would you do? If you did know the answer, what would it be? And so that frames your mind. So when she asked that, I said achievement motivation. She says, I love it. Can you be in the office today at 4? So I go to the office and she's like, let's do it. And can you start Monday? Okay. And so when I started putting, the syllabus together, all of the books, the great books, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow, you name it, all the books, I had them. I had read them all, and I was ready to put them put them together. But once I met the class, I realized that many of the students were people who had already been out into the world. Some of the guys were coming back from the military. And so they really weren't into that heavy duty reading format. And
Yeah.
so a lot of the success books required a lot of reading and you got to read the whole book. And so the 12 Universal Laws of Success started from the notes for that class.
Wow.
And so I think that's why it's very succinct in so many ways. So I started taking from the other books, taking from my knowledge, reading, and I started from an outline and literally preparing notes for the class. And that was the original version of the 12 Universal Laws of Success, were basically those class notes. And
Wow.
and as the book evolved, we always wanted to keep that idea, that aspect. So you can go to one chapter and read that chapter. We designed it, each chapter was a standalone. So you didn't really have to read chapter 2 to read chapter 5.
Right.
Yeah. So when you were reviewing it, did you find that as a plus for it? One of those that you could just go to and read something and get it?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually found it very, very easy to read. Just like the formatting, the chapter heads, how it was really laid out on the page. It was really easy to digest. And after I would read it, I would be like, oh, okay, well, here are the concepts that I took away, especially how you do that in your chapters. So
Mhm.
I kind of like how the reader is left with ideas. It's hard to just read the book and oh, wait, what did I read? It
Mhm.
definitely sticks with you,
Mhm.
and all of the concepts. So I really appreciated that aspect.
Mm. Thank you so much, my dear. We appreciate that review. And so you really have a great book reviewing business going.
Oh, thank you. It's really like a passion for me. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
fun.
Well, when you do that, I think it helps writers because when people read your works and respond to it, even a review, a person says, this it's nice, but it's not. Sometimes you rarely find a negative review, but it's just the fact that somebody took the time, and you can tell when a person took the time to read the book,
Right.
and so all reviewers don't do that, and so I take my hat off to you.
Thank you. And even I recommended the book to some friends who actually read it and bought it, and they had great things to say. So,
Beautiful, beautiful. So now, when we look toward the future, you are a college student. What advice would you give to a college student right now? You're getting ready to graduate. And what advice would you give to a student, for example, who's just starting out, coming in their freshman year? I have a granddaughter that's starting her freshman year. What advice would you give her?
yeah. So, if I ever run into a first year student on campus, I'm always sure to emphasize to keep persisting and never give up. And it sounds like, oh, isn't that obvious? But I think that it's really important to stick to your goals. And something I also got out of the book was to create structure and always to have a plan. And so I think that's important, whether you're just starting out or you're finishing, to always have that goals, in mind when you are looking to the future.
Mm,
Something else that I thought was really important was mentorship and never be afraid of criticism. So I think finding opportunities where you can network, where you can get feedback, and where you can learn from someone who has already had a lot of experience will help you long term.
mhm. Wow, now that's some powerful advice. Super powerful advice. Well, now that you're getting ready to to graduate, as you look into the future, what tips can you give to a student like yourself who's now at that point? I think graduation is almost scary because it's like, man, I got to leave here, and what am I going to do? Yeah. What thoughts or advice could you give to a person who's heading towards the graduation cycle and getting ready to go off into the world?
Yeah, it can be scary because there are a lot of uncertainty and a lot of what ifs. But I think the most important part is really embracing that aspect. It's a great time. You have your life ahead of you. So you really want to step into that role and embrace whatever your future has in store for you. There's no need to be afraid or nervous. It's a great time, and you really just have to own up to it and be positive.
Mm, wow. Well, I tell you, Ginger, I have enjoyed this. I mean, you have
Me
this.
too.
And I think this interview is going to be super helpful because there are a lot of young people who don't get a chance to really, who may not have been nurtured, as effectively as well as you've been nurtured, but who are really hungry to have somebody, you and I can say the same things. And I can see a student looking at me and say, oh, you're an old fuddy duddy. It doesn't work like that. But then when you say it, it's like, what'd she say? Wow.
Well, the book said it best.
Yes. Yes. Wow. Well, JJ, I tell you, this has been a magnificent interview, a great experience. I'm going to share this. You're going to see it, and I think it's going to create a great vibration for you. That's going to take you to a whole nother level
Thank
because you
you so much. I
you are
really
truly a
appreciate
gem, a diamond,
that.
and not a diamond in the rough. You're a diamond that's already shining.
Thank you so much. And thank you for doing this and passing on your wisdom and being open to helping people. I think that's so kind.
Wow. Well, any parting words you'd like to share?
No, just thank you again for having me on here and talking about success. I hope that other people are able to watch this and get something out of it. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Now, is there a website where people can go and see some of your reviews and keep up with some of the things you're doing?
Yeah,
What's your website?
definitely my Instagram page, Read with Ginger, Ginger spelled with a J, Jinger. I post all of my book reviews on there and everything that I write. So if you want to stay up to date, please check that out.
All right. Well, Ginger, thank you so much. This has been an incredible edition of Success Talk featuring Ginger Callwood, future journalist, future anchor, and I guarantee you that in a hurricane in, let's see, we're in 2022. So I'll give you 10 years before you're doing the hurricane beat and you got the camera and you have the mic and the wind's blowing and you're saying, you know, CNN, this is Ginger Callwood from Miami, Florida. Thank you so much, Ginger. Continue growing, continue going. And always remember this, you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. You can have anything you desire, always knowing that
Thank you.
the best is yet to come. And so it is.
Thank you.
Wow. Hey, this is our listeners, our watchers, our viewers out there. This has been this is a special interview. Ginger has shared some powerful information and from a young person's perspective. And so I ask you to do this. Number one, listen to it because I think it's going to bring up something in all of us that we've kind of forgotten when we were young. But two, share it with some other people. Share it with your children, other young people, because it's important that these words of power and words of wisdom come through a mouth, come through a young person such as you, Ginger. Thank you so much for being a guest on Success Talk.
Thank you.
So it is.